Magnus Carlsen. They entered the day in a share for first place. And of course, both of them look very good to move on to the playoff positioning. But I do want to take a look at how two of our heavy hitters are performing against each other. And just as we entered the board, David, it looked like we went from what was an advantage to an equalization. Let's maybe roll that back and understand why.
Yeah, because Magnus suddenly lacks a queen. White's queen has suddenly disappeared in the last few moves. Let's just roll back 3 moves. We left it, the kind of most normal position in the world was this one. It looked very level. Suddenly a mistake from Nodebek. He brought his bishop to the side of the board. His bishop was attacked. He could have saved it with an exchange. This is a sacrifice. Magnus accepted it. But after bishop takes pawn here, saving the white queen from this attack, just sliding back, would have given Magnus a huge advantage. The problem for black is that this knight is under attack, and this rook in the corner, if you take it, white will simply recapture. White has 2 pieces for a rook, a small material advantage. Magnus instead chose to give up his queen. This is Magnus at the top of the table, where he doesn't really care so much. He's just playing for the gallery at this point. He took this knight, given a double question mark by the computer. I think we can understand why. The queen falls. But once we do a bit of a roundup here, a recap, we see it's 3 pieces for white, 3 minor pieces. It's a knight and 2 bishops for the black queen. So rough material equality, but unnecessarily wild.
David, you say we can understand why. I can understand why it's given the double question mark. I can't understand why Magnus necessarily went for it.
Me neither. I think he just loves sacrificing his queen, Magnus. I've spent enough time with him to know that if he can play a controversial move, kind of a shocking move, then he does often.
Ever the entertainer.
He really is, and I think he entertains himself most of all. You know, whenever he finds something that could be fun to play on, he knows he's safe in the qualifiers. He knows that both these players have made it, and it's really the most challenging option that he's taken. And it could also have something to do with the fact that moving that queen away, he didn't like that as much, probably found it a little less fun than this option. It's creative chess. That's what he enjoys. But looking at this, we were talking about being materialistic in the studio, right? 3 pieces, 3 minors versus a major. Nodebek's queen. Which side are we picking? Because so much of it depends if the queens and the majors are actually able to put pressure on Magnus's king at the center of the board. Nodebek needs to find a way to get his knight, which hasn't made a single move, to come closer into the game, to come towards the center of the board. Magnus has to, meanwhile, regroup all his minors to make sure the king is defended, create threats against his opponent. Looking at the king's safety here, I do like the queen versus the minor pieces here. What about you, David?
Yeah, normally I'm quite biased towards the queen, but I can see why Magnus has gone for this. I think it's just because black's pieces are temporarily so passive, but this one could turn in any direction. The one thing I'll say is, if Magnus was at the bottom of the table, needed to play safe, needed points on the board, he would never have given up his queen. It's just the fact that he knows he's safe, he knows he's in the quarterfinals, even if he loses his next 4 games. So yeah, he's just trying to entertain us. He's trying to win the brilliancy prize.
Well, and some of our fans in chat, though, they're going to be wishing that maybe they could have him take that move back. We asked in our Twitch chat who they believe will win the round 8 pairing, Magnus, Nodebek, or will it go to a draw. 49% of our audience thinks Magnus will take it. Well, after that queen sacrifice, maybe it is less likely. Here we have a couple of moves flying out onto the board. I did see an X showing up there at